Inspirational. Powerfully refining. And unapologetically controversial. Conversations with the Royal Empress. The entire world knows the secret of who you are. Now is the time to step into your queendom and become the Royal Empress that you're meant to be. One woman at a time. Conversations with the Royal Empress. Now Akila, she's the analytical empress. Akima, she's the empress that will challenge you. And Lakashay Nadira, she's the empress who tells it like it is. Now, straighten up your crown and be elevated through conversations. Conversations with the Royal Empress.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us once again as we share part 2 of Let's Talk About Sex. This is Lakashay Nadira, and joining me again on this conversation is none other than my two sisters, Akila and Akima. So let's get right to it, ladies. Part 2, Let's Talk About Sex.
Where were we?
Where were we is a good question. Well, we were talking about sex.
Maybe. Yeah, I think we were talking about men at this point, and even though I think it doesn't have to be men, it could be women. But when sex is weaponized and used to control and used to take people out of power, I think it has that ability. And it has that ability because of a weakness sometimes that we have. It's almost as if a weakness is being exploited. And we see that with nations. We've seen that with organizations, particularly with the COINTELPRO, sending people in as agents. And a lot of times men of power don't realize that these women are agents that are being sent in to destroy them. But because you can't allow a big butt to walk past you without you needing to reach out and touch it, then you're reachable. You're not untouchable because people look at your weaknesses. We have social media, we have texting, we have inboxing. If anybody is doing any kind of surveillance, they can look at you as a man or a woman in any kind of leadership role and see the things that you're saying that you think are private. And then what do? They exploit that in you.
It really is. And it's unfortunate that it's at this point. And it's not that it's new, because this is something that's been around, forever, right? I mean, when you think back even in scriptures and just historical context, you find that there have been many men who have fallen victim. Well, I won't even say fallen victim, but they have fallen indeed because of their inability to rise above their sexual desires and climb out of a low level of thinking into a higher space, which I get it. I understand. We all have our nature, and everybody is not able to derive it at certain places at the same time. But I also recognize that when a man or a woman, for that matter, when we are only concerned about the carnal way of thinking and life, just caught up into the flesh, then what happens, or the consequences that we end up suffering because of our lack of being able to rise higher, we will find that it will literally suck the life out of us and bring us all the way to our knees. So if we want to be brought to our knees, and if that's where we're used to being is on our knees, then we'll basically end up in the same place. You know, you like to be on your knees, you're going to end up on your knees. Now, for those of you who are thinking like a little funny, excuse me, but I'm just saying that it's something to really consider, because we see this in so many areas. We see it in entertainment, we see it in politics, we see it in the workplace, we see it everywhere. So what are we going to do? How are things going to change? What needs to happen?
You made me think of, when you talked about being brought to your knees, you made me think of the story of Samson and Delilah
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible. And
Yes.
although I believe Delilah ultimately loved Samson, but she was sent to find out where his strength came from. So she needed to get that secret from him. And because of his desire, it wasn't necessarily just a sexual desire, but because of his desire for her, he gave up the information. He gave her the source of his power. And she took it from him. I think that so many people can actually learn something from that particular story when understanding, and this is a whole part of vetting the people that are in our lives.
Yes. Yes.
I am one, even though we joke about it, like, who sent you?
Mm-hmm.
But that's real.
Oh, yes, it is.
That's real. Who sent you? You have to be very careful, particularly depending on where you are in your life, your status in life. And if a woman comes to you and you're a man of means, you're a man who is out in this world that can make a difference, and she offering you sex on a platter right away, some kind of bells should be going off for you. You should get that uh-oh feeling in your stomach. Your spidey senses should start tingling, because here you are, the person that you are, and this is what they come and offer to you. Especially, God forbid, if you're married.
God forbid.
That's where that ego comes in.
Yeah. And I know we're spending a lot of time speaking about this, well, at least with part 2 here about men. We started off talking about just the what we've seen exist over the years with men. But this is the same, I believe the same can be true for women as well. Not only just being sent, but just there has to be a second and a third and a fourth look that you give, a second and a third and a fourth thought that you have when things that they just kind of appear out of nowhere and you get caught up quickly. And you talked about vetted things and just making sure that stuff checks out and not being so quick to rush down, whether it be the aisle or rush into the bedroom, and being okay with that. Like, what is it going to cost you if you decided to wait a while? Janet Jackson said that in her song, Let's Wait a While. And she said it for a reason. Why, Janet? Why do you want to wait a while? Well, because I know that if we move now, based on the feelings that we have, we might find ourselves in trouble. What kind of trouble? Well, we can go on and on, but we get the point. To be able to ask yourself that question when you find yourself in a situation, whether you be a male or you be a female. Can I just wait for a moment? Can I wait at least till the background check comes out? Can I just wait at least until, I run my comps to figure out if this is even the real thing. But no, no. And if you can't wait, then really what you're already saying to yourself, that it's not worth it. Because if you can't wait, and if you're that important to yourself, meaning if you love yourself that much, if you recognize the value of who you are, then you should be worth the wait, meaning worth the wait before you decide to make a major decision, and also worth the wait of you doing your due diligence and taking things to court before a judge, not literally, but meaning you being that judge, you being that detective, you checking things out to make sure that it's okay. Just as if you wouldn't give your child poison because you want to make sure, the sandwich or whatever you have, you want to look and make sure that it's good. You shouldn't be wanting to give yourself poison. This is how, I guess, for those of us who believe in stories or fairy tales, whether it be Snow White and the apple or whether it be Eve and the apple, what tempts us can destroy us. And what we fail to have control over will choke us, just like the snake that was in the garden. The snake will wrap itself around our damn necks because of our unwillingness to obey the instinct, our natural ability within, that voice within, the God, the spirit within. This is why it's so important not to silence that, because once it's silenced, then the voice begins to, well, it's gone, it disappears. And now you don't even have a second thought, you just act. And then you find yourself in a situation like a Samson. You find yourself in a situation like a Martin, like a Jesse, like whomever else have found themselves in situations. And if any of the things that I've mentioned at this point right now describe you, know that this in no way is talking about anybody specific. It just so happens that maybe the shoe might fit.
Little sparkle popped in my head. If the shoe fits, wear it, boy. For women, sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's the fear of being alone and you just want to grasp onto something, even though it's like that for men too.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but but it's also that ego. And I mean, I know that I talk about the ego a lot, but that's because it's a monster. It can be. And we really have to deal with that, because I think a lot of things that we would avoid a lot of things if we could get control of our ego. Because oftentimes it's the playing to the ego. That's how some men get caught up, because that woman comes in and strokes his ego. And I've even heard men say, well, a man likes his ego stroked. Really? Why? When you told him before what ego means. So if I need to stroke your ego, why? Why do you need that stroke? It's okay to want to be loved and desired. But to have your ego stroked, we need to think about that. We need to talk about that. And it's a weakness. And it's a weakness that causes you to get destroyed.
I agree. I agree.
That's pretty deep. You're right. We have this false sense of what success is. And in this society, success, oftentimes, if a man is striving to be a powerful man or a man of stature in the land, part of that success or the ideology of that success is having access to as many people of the opposite sex that they want to have, because they feel it's this false sense of entitlement. I'm entitled to that because of what I do. It's like a politician. Because of what I do, I'm entitled to have what I want. And we need to rethink this, or understand that those are false images or roles or ideologies that have been programmed into our head. We need to break that matrix. That's a faulty program. We need to disconnect from that program. That's not success. And the program of young men to think that it takes a man is supposed to have multiple sexual partners. That's a slave mentality, because that's what the slave master did with our brothers in slavery. Didn't matter if he was married. You go over here and pregnate all these women on a plantation because we want strong bucks. So our men think like slaves and don't even realize why they think that way. Actually had a disagreement with a coworker. He told me that all men cheat. I said, really? Where you learn that at? Well, all men do. I said, well, maybe all the men that you know, but understand you don't know every man and you can't speak for every man. But in his mind, he spoke with so much conviction that he really felt he was right, that all men cheat, they just don't say it. So in his mind, he feels that men, the role of a man is just to sleep with as many women as he can. And so those mental models, we need to crush those mental models. We have to start with our young men and women. They have to be taught the appropriate roles at young ages. I've heard so many women tell their young men, "You're gonna be a heartbreaker." We need to stop telling our young men that,
Oh my goodness, yes. Stop
right?
it.
We need to stop. We need to stop telling you're gonna be a player. Why are we
Because we're
telling our
setting them
young?
up.
Right, we're setting them, we're programming them. That's what we're doing. I was looking at a video and there was a scholar talking, and he said that the first 7 years of your life is where you're being programmed at. So we're telling 3, 4 year olds, he's so handsome, he gonna be a heartbreaker. He's so
Yep, a
handsome, he
heartbreaker.
gonna be a player. And we think that's cute. That's not cute. It's not cute at all. And we need to break those mental models that have been programmed into our head, and we need to rebuild the true ones.
And the unfortunate thing about what you're saying, I mean, of course, it's true. That's unfortunate. But also the fact that it is the women that are saying these things to these young men. But yet, so you say you're going to be a heartbreaker, you're going to be a player. And then when he grows up to be a man, or somebody else's child grows up to be a man, and now he's breaking your heart and he's playing you like a fiddle or a classical violin, now it's a problem. But it wasn't a problem when you were feeding it to him like baby food, when you were giving it to him freely by what you said. And so not realizing that you've created Frankenstein. This is your creation because you fed him foolishness, and now he's turned around, ate what you gave him, and now spit it right back out in your face, mother or auntie, all these who played a role. Not to say that it doesn't come from a man, because we see it all the time from men saying the same thing. Oh, young player, little player, oh man, you're going to be breaking the women's heart. And then we want to give them a high five. And then even when
The
it
truth.
comes to some men who raise their sons, because think of it, men and women had typically raised their male children and their girls different, totally different. So for the young man, it's okay for him to go out here. This is like he's made champion. How many girls you got on you? Okay, let me give you a little something, something. Let me teach you a little. But for the daughter, it's like, you better get yourself back in the house. So they're double standards. But just think about the programming, as you mentioned, Dr. Hawk. Think about the programming that's being done by both male and female. So it's almost like, what is it that you expect to happen? If you feed the baby beans, they're going to poop beans, right? Whatever you feed them is what they're going to poop. I learned that when I got my first doll, that, though I don't know that doll that my mother bought me when I was young, but it was the
Baby,
one that actually pooped.
you
And
heard
I
me.
was, huh?
That was Baby Alive, because I had her
Oh
too.
Baby
yes,
alive.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
baby alive. I had a baby alive, and that's when I realized the reality of whatever I put in her mouth, that's what's going to come out in this diaper. And I'm like, huh. So I had a great little mathematical science lesson, introduction, 101. Same thing applies here. Whatever you feed these children are seeds, our babies who eventually raise up to be big people, adults functioning in society. Whatever you have fed them, they're going to poop it out. They're going to actually give you what you put in them. And if all you gave them was a high five and, oh man, you the man, you the player, gonna be a heartbreaker. And that's exactly what they're going to do, is break hearts, play fiddles, and poop
Until
unhealthy food. Hmm?
yeah, I said until they come into a higher level of understanding.
Well,
And
true this.
it's
It will true this, and that's the whole point of this conversation. Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just that we see it so much, but then we scratch our heads and we wonder why. And so what I'm giving is the why. If you want to know why he spoke this way or he thinks below the belt, why don't you take him back to first, second, third grade when you were feeding him information or programming him or her
What
that
were you?
was not good
Yeah, what were
or
you
that was
teaching?
misinformation.
Yeah, it happens so much, and it's interesting because so many women nowadays and say, well, there's no good men, or men are this, men are that. And I always go back to, well, who was the first teacher? And
Hello.
you can't, so that always amazes me, to be honest with you, when I hear that. And no, we're not responsible for bad behavior in men where we're supposed to just accept bad behavior. But the point is that that's just a reality. But it's also a reality that there are men who teach their daughters certain things. And then you have men saying, oh, women want this, women want that. But the father teaches his daughter what he should expect, what she should expect from a man. Those who are active in their children's lives.
Yeah, good father does.
Yeah. So, or a good father will let the daughter know, you don't have to take anything from a man because I'm here. And but we still teach them certain things. We teach certain things, and we have all of these perceptions, and we're yelling at each other about why are men like this, why are women like that, but we never think about our contribution to the molding of those minds. But it's just the reality of what happens. And so our attitudes about sex and what you're being taught about sex and how to use it to your advantage and to the detriment sometimes of others, it's not good teaching. It's simply not good teaching because it doesn't do anything for anyone. And in many instances, it erodes away at the moral fabric of our community. And right now we're living in this era where everybody wants this free love. And it's just like, well, this is not the 60s. Free love costs you a whole lot nowadays.
Think you were on your back getting free love, you're going to be on your back in the hospital somewhere trying to recover from the free love that you got. And that ain't pretty.
Yeah. So but like I said, but we do have to, we just have to be more mindful, and we have to learn what self-mastery really is. And part of the problem is lack of accountability, but it's also the inability to master the self. And we all fall short. We're all human. You're always striving. But some people just have such an attitude that they can't hear anything outside of what they're thinking. When you have a man that thinks it's okay to sleep around with 5, 6, 7, 8 women at the same time. I don't mean in the same bed at the same time, but I mean just have that many partners. And it's like, if you having sex with all these people, what time do you have to be productive? That's a lot of sex.
It's a lot of sex. You're
Not only
absolutely right.
not only that, how much time do you have as a man or woman who is whoever the one who's juggling all these sexual partners? That's worship. When do you have time for your personal relationship with Allah, your development with Him? You don't, because you're making all these people gods besides Allah. So God, sex is your God, and those who you sleeping with become your God. That's where you devote most of your time. So that's your religion. Some people's religion is sex, because that's all they do is have sex on the mind. They spend too much time chasing people for sex, too much time getting it. So therefore, that's their religion.
You make an excellent point, Dr. Hawk,
Mm-hmm.
about the religion aspect and the sex being that, because really it boils down to what you worship, right? So if you're right, if that person is worshiping sex, then that's a daily practice and a daily ritual that they're taking place in more than anything else. Then it sounds like a belief system to me. It sounds like something that you've married onto and you've adopted, as really, yeah, your God.
It does sound like you worshiping. Talking about the altar for real.
I mean, well,
where are you laying when they say go lay your problems at the altar?
Well, that's the problem. They said lay.
Okay.
literally,
And
right?
people literally took it literally and they lay down.
Yeah, the bed is the altar.
Right.
And you're frequenting that altar.
But what do we think when we read in scripture, we talking about false gods? I think we think it's some statue that somebody make. No, we
Exactly.
spooked out. We
Exactly.
spooky. We think, oh, look at them. They build a statue over there across the street of Michael Jordan. No, that ain't the false god that is in scripture. We make false gods, like some of us make religion religion a sport. Some of us make sports a sport, a religion, excuse me, where you have some people, they so into sports, they so fanatical. That's where the term fan comes from, fanatic. So I mean, you have people who worship things that they should not worship. If you're putting all your time into something, that becomes your religion. And I think
Yeah,
we missed the boat on that. Some people eat all day long. Well, that's your religion.
absolutely.
Food
Yeah.
is your God,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Some
And
people
I'm
watch
so
TV
glad.
all day.
Yeah.
Some people watch TV all day. That's your
Mhm.
God. Sometimes some of us
Absolutely.
are on our phone all day.
Real talk.
I guess
Real,
that's my God, right? I stay on my phone.
really.
But
You
you
better
understand what I'm
look.
saying?
You
Like
better
when you
stop
put,
worshiping false idols,
I better
Hakeem. You
stop
better
watching that
stop.
iPhone, right?
You better come on. You better come on to this here altar and lay that phone down.
Lay my iPhone down.
You better
Did I
lay it
know it
on
right?
down at this altar.
You better leave that phone at the altar.
Leave it there, child. Leave it there. But I mean, and I know we're making light of it because we're laughing, but this is real talk. These are gods. These are false idols. That's exactly what we know and believe. The scriptures that say, or talk about. Anytime that you feel like you cannot live without something, you say things like, "Man, I don't know what I'd do if I ain't have my fill in the blank." Man, I don't know what I'd do if I ain't have my phone. Man, I don't know what I'd do if I ain't have my my car. Man, I don't know what I'd do if I ain't had that behind. Man, I don't know what I'd do if I ain't have my woman. You know? I don't know what I'd do if I ain't had that thigh, that leg, that chicken. Whatever the case might be, whatever it is that we find.
No, or that makes that person
Oh,
that,
absolutely. Yeah,
we
that's
in a
all. Yeah.
relationship, we make that
Yeah.
person a God. I remember
Yeah.
beginning of my marriage, well, like the second year started to turn, and I was just too focused on trying to be a good wife. And I remember going to my mom, I'm having this problem, having that problem. She said, you know what your problem is? You too worried about that damn man. Why don't you worry about God? She said, that's your doggone problem. Focus on him, and everything gonna fall in place. I thought my mother was crazy. I said, this woman smoking something. You know, that's what I'm thinking, right? My mama did turn to drugs. This woman had lost her mind, right? This is what I'm saying, because I'm young, 20-something, didn't want to listen. But I just say, you know what? Why? She right. I'm going to try that, because I didn't try everything else. I'm going to try it. I just stopped being worried about him. When he say something I ain't like, I just look at him like he was crazy, and I went on to do what I wanted to do. I started focusing on me. And guess what he discovered? This woman is in love with somebody else. It ain't me. You right. I fell in love with my Allah. And so when he saw I fell in love with my Allah, he's like, okay, I'm gonna leave this sister alone. It seemed like, let me tell you what, my marriage has been good ever since. I had to learn. Stop making this person that I'm in a relationship my God. Of course, ain't nothing gonna go right, because that ain't supposed to be my God. That ain't supposed to be my Lord. So once I put everything in its right perspective, my life just fell into place. We put jobs before. I did that before. I'd have put a job before Allah, and he took that one. He said, okay, so you worship this job so much, boom, I'm about to rock your foundation. I lost that job. So, I mean, we go through life and we put things before God, and then we can't understand why life is in shambles or why it's not going right, because he wants you to figure it out for yourself, or he's going to make you figure out that should not be put as a God before him. And so many people have lost marriages. They've lost their relationship with their children over a damn job that would get rid of you tomorrow. We need to cut that out.
Yeah. And they losing it over sex.
That too.
They're losing it over sex.
Yeah,
Be it
that's
sex outside the marriage, be it the lack of sex in the marriage.
Oh, yes.
It
too
is
much in it.
yeah, maybe too much. because it's a reality, and we've already established, and I've already said I can't even say it no more. We've established the importance in a committed situation.
Yes, we have.
But if you're running around, seriously, if you're running around juggling this one and that one and this one and that one and this one and that one, how do you have time to focus on anything else realistically?
Well, that's the thing. They don't, and that's why their world is in a shambles, because they don't have time to focus on anything else but that. So that's why, yeah, I mean, it's no different from somebody riding the white horse. If you want to ride, I mean, ride the one. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so, I mean, pretty much.
And people become addicted, and we need to understand that there are people who are addicted. And when you are addicted to something, that
Oh, but that's what you do. Because it's taking you for a ride. It's like, Janet Jackson. I know I keep mentioning her a couple of times within these two segments, but she talk about, come on and let's go on an escapade, right?
right.
And it's like, that's exactly, so pretty much you decided that you want to stay high. The pleasure that you get out of the act, which we all have established and understand that sex can be a beautiful act and a beautiful coming together of two beings who are committed. We get that. But when you want to remain in bed, like that, and we talked about the not being productive when you remain there. If you lay on your back all day and all night, eventually your back is going to go out. Eventually, you're going to have a issue with your back, your buttocks. People can't lay in the bed all day. But really, what I'm speaking of is the difference between the upright existence and horizontal existence. When you stand up, and I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective, when you can stand up and rise from a condition that has been pulling and tugging at you because you have given up all of your control, then you're on the right path. And so for those I know we kind of made light of the situation, we joked about it. For those of you who are battling any kind of sexual addictions or just challenges when it comes to you know, wanting to remain in a state that's not natural forever. Meaning, yes, it's like a I don't want to be graphic, but have you ever seen, unless somebody is taking a blue pill, have you ever seen anybody remain erect the whole entire time? If they do, that's a problem. So I'm saying that you can't expect to remain in a condition forever. At some point, you have to move and change your position. And so, as it is with wanting to be sexually active or participate in an act all the time, or not being able to escape it because it literally has become your white horse, your God, or whatever it is that you're submitting to, what that's saying is that you've fallen and you've lost your way. And all we really want to do is kind of help you to get back up again. Not up in that way, but maybe get down.
No,
But-
you didn't.
Well, we want to help.
You're double entendres, but go
I
ahead.
know. I've been doubling up quite a bit. But
Yeah.
tongue is twisted and tied, Lord. But you get my drift. It's just that we really have to move beyond this lower level of thinking and be really willing to just work hard. It's not always going to be easy, especially if this is something that we've been programmed to do, or if this is something that we're used to. It's not always going to be easy. But
And we have been programmed. So let's be very clear.
Yeah.
We live in a society
Yeah.
that continues to program us and continues to sell sex. It
Yeah.
continues to do it. Sex is in everything. We can't see anything now that doesn't have some sort of sexual innuendo.
Yeah. Even the cereal boxes, as I said before.
Even the cartoons.
Yeah, even the cartoons. It's really sad. You know, I was thinking, is there an age limit for like Hooters? No, where this is.
No,
Can anybody?
you
Work
can take
there?
children to Hooters.
Huh?
Oh, you mean
No.
can children go to Hooters? Yes, they can.
So they can. So yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about that because see, even
I know
something
people
like that.
who've had their child's birthday party at Hooters.
Now that wow, that's.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
I mean, it was a
This is
teenager, but nevertheless.
teenager. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I had saw a meme and I was going to post it onto our Royal Empress page, but I chose not to. But it was a meme of a mother who had gotten a birthday cake for her 19-year-old daughter, and the cake had lips and a hard penis pointing at the mouth. So it had lips in the, yeah, this is a birthday cake. Her daughter was turning sweet 19 or 19 years old. And she said something about, I forget what the writing on the cake was, like happy birthday. I don't remember, but it was not, it was very inappropriate, very disrespectful to me, in my opinion. And so I'm like, wow, so your child is turning 19, your daughter's turning 19, and this is the gift that you give her on this birthday cake. I mean, wow, really? So this is, again, the programming. So what is one to do? What is one to even expect? I mean, from the diapers to the doggone grave, sex is everywhere. And you mentioned it before, Akila, when you spoke about the porn industry. Of course, this has a huge influence on why we think the way we think. Because in truth, if you sit up and watch porn all day, you are looking for this to be a reality in your bedroom. So you're constantly chasing down this dream that's not even true. It's not even a reality. You've been tricked and bamboozled to think that people are, well, I'm not saying, well, okay. I won't go there. But you definitely have been tricked if you actually think that what you see on these videos is 100% true. But then now you have false expectations and you go seeking it. Well, you'll never return from seeking because you're going to remain looking because you're not going to find it. And I think that's the point that I was driving home earlier. I just never got to the point, which I do often sometimes, which is that it's like getting high. People continue to do drugs oftentimes because they're trying to get that same high that they got the very first hit, which is not going to happen from what I've been told. And it's the same way with the sex that we chase.
Well,
You may
why?
want it to be like the way that it was the first time. I don't know. Not to say that it can't be a pleasurable experience, but you're constantly, if this is the only thing on your mind, so you're constantly chasing that very feeling of the highness that you once got. And so because you maybe didn't get it the second or the third, fourth time around, you keep going. You keep going. It's like eating food that it tastes okay, but you continue to eat it just because you think that all of a sudden it's going to taste better. I don't know if that's the best comparison.
Yeah. And the porn industry now is right at your fingertips. So the days of having to rent a video or whatever, it's free porn all over the internet now.
Do they even have video stores these days where you can rent stuff? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny,
Well,
but
I'm assuming CDs now, but I say video.
no, I mean CDs, videos. What I'm saying is, do they actually have places where people still go to get that stuff, or? I'm asking you, like
Well, yeah, actually, I do know, but not because I'm in the store buying them, but because, but because I can see the stores on. When you drive down the street, you can see the sex stores. They're named.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, you're right. I get you.
So, but the thing is that, but I know that you can also see this stuff online, which means if it's available online, that means your children have access to this, because most of us are also not supervising our children on these computers the way that we should. So when your child is on these little porn sites that are free, showing full out porn, they're being programmed. And what happens to the children when they keep seeing that? They want to experiment with what they see. So it's a premature exposure. When we expose our children so young, you desensitize them and they begin to think that something is normal behavior, because this is what they see. And so then they act that out, and then they think it's nothing wrong with it. It's the same way these young boys, as we were talking, and this is a whole other subject that we can get into at another time, but it's the same way with some men who will tell you that they started having sex at 6 or 8 or 11 or whatever. And you're looking at them and you're thinking to yourself, no, sweetheart, you were molested.
You're right. I never looked at it that way.
Exactly.
You were molested, but because society has told you as a man that having sex is such a good thing,
you would rather put it on sex.
So then you become promiscuous as a man. A lot of these men who are promiscuous like that, see, this is the thing that we fail to understand, is that we say when a woman has been molested or touched that she becomes promiscuous. So do men.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't get to the root of it, and because we pat them on the back and give them attaboys for quote unquote their notches on their belt, then they see something that was that was really a act, an unjustified act on them, that somebody was a predator. They look at that as a notch on the belt, not fully understanding. And so sometimes that it's a mental thing for some of them. I had someone tell me that, I was doing this when I was 8 years old, and my babysitter did this, and she was, and I'm looking like,
you bragging about this. They're bragging about this crap.
Yes.
Wow. But
But
see,
then
look at the mind.
you're continuing to sleep with women like that. That was,
Yeah.
we talked about this, I think, once before. Remember, Hakima, when we went to see the play, The Penis Monologue?
Yes.
And Messiah, in his role, remember the scene where he was in there and he had the three women, like he was getting ready to have an orgy with them, or however you talk about it. And he made a comment about him having sex since when they asked him how old was he, and he put this young age, and the girl told him, no, honey, you was molested.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And
But he
Like
went
a
into
joke,
this
but it
whole
was like,
dialogue about that happening to men, and then they grow up and they become promiscuous.
yeah.
And they begin to see sex in a certain light that's not a good thing. So you justify things in your mind, because really to suggest that it's not means that something happened to me that shouldn't have happened to me.
Absolutely. It's so sad because as I just listened to that, it's sad for so many reasons. Um, because I know oftentimes we do overlook some of the abuse. And when I say we, I'm just speaking of society.
Mm-hmm.
We overlook the abuse that a lot of sexual abuse that men experience. And so therefore it goes unspoken about, unmentioned, just kind of hidden under the table, but then it manifests itself in adulthood or, their teenage years. And then we wonder like, whoa, where did this come from? We are more likely to speak of what happens to our young girls when they have these experiences. And either way, it's just horrible. Because again, it goes back to what we spoke of earlier with the programming. So you either were given something at an age where your eyes and your mind should not have even had to go at such an impressionable time when you were going through your growth and development process of just getting some of the basic things intact, and then boom, you're dropped, or a bomb is dropped on you, where now you have to experience something, things that adults experience. What do you think is going to happen? And it's sad, but this again is why we know that one of the ways to get rid of, or to at least address some of these issues that we're dealing with in an oversexed society, is to be able to get to the root of the issue and then begin to deal with it. So in some cases, it may require counseling. And so you're absolutely right that many people may not know that counseling and other types of things that might be able to assist. Again, I spoke about just being able to get to the root of it, being able to talk about it. Let's, like we started it off, the subject is, or we said the theme song of let's talk about sex. Well, oftentimes this is not something that we want to talk about, at least not like this.
But we
We
need
want
to.
to talk about the things that make us feel good and comfortable. Sometimes we need to talk, not sometimes, we need to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable about sex. That's why having this conversation is important.
What should we challenge our listeners with, Dr. Hakima?
I got some challenges, right?
Are you really? You do? No, no.
What?
Okay. All right, my first challenge is, listeners, dig deep and search for the mental origin of your idea of sex. It
Mm,
originated from somewhere, and we need to dig deep and see what that is. I don't think it's somewhere in our subconscious. I don't think we really realize where those ideas formulated. So it's something that we need to dig down deep. Second, we need to evaluate how we use sex. Is it a drug? Is it to give us this high that we need to overcome some insecurities or some pain? We need to evaluate that. Are we using it as a weapon? Are we using it to bring someone down or to control someone? And last, I'm asking the listeners to seek therapy to overcome molestation of a young age. Like you put it so eloquently, Lakasha, about how we, um, or Akila, both of you mentioned it at different times, but how we have a misunderstanding of what actually happened to us. While many of us think it was just an introduction to sex, it was actually molestation. These are things that we need to evaluate and understand about ourselves in order for us to heal. So those are my 3 challenges for this topic.
Excellent challenges they are, Doc. As always, we thank you for always bringing the little fire under the feet because challenges, challenge you. And so to be able to have it laid out so that our listeners can take the information and take heed is something that we need. It's something that we need, and it's really one of the only ways that we can actually move forward and make changes for improvement. And so I just want to thank you all for joining us on this 2-part series of Let's Talk About Sex. And we look forward to you joining us the next time on Conversations with the Royal Empress.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. Tune in next week for another enlightening conversation. For more information on the Royal Empress, please visit the website royalempress.org. You can also follow the Royal Empress on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Conversations with the Royal Empress is a subsidiary of the Royal Empress organization. All rights reserved.